Well, hello again, guys. Here I am today at Whitley Park, which is just next door to Newcastle United's training ground, and we've been speaking inside to Eddie Howe there this morning ahead of tomorrow's trip down to Fulham. Now, I'm doing it from here today because, yes, it is windy on Tyneside, shock, and behind the camera right now is a big hut which is acting as a very useful windbreak. Now, how stormy, how windy was it inside Eddie's press conference? Well, there are some things we've still got to talk about. Some of you guys might not like it, the club might not like it, but the lingering tension that exists behind the scenes, those questions have got to be asked. We've got to explore the answers to them. It's something which, as journalists, we've got to continue to pursue. And yes, now, to the backdrop of that, allied to that, our performances on the pitch that have taken Newcastle, if they win it down at Fulham tomorrow, they will go top of the Premier League. You know, both things can actually be true. I actually think they're not even separate. I think they are potentially connected in terms of players, dressing room, manager, staff, supporters all coming together despite all of that tension and would you call it unrest that still does linger there. We can't ignore that. Now, the other big talking point from today's press conference, of course, was the story we broke earlier in the week about Alexander Isak. Will he be fit to play at Fulham? Wow. If any one player, the fitness, their fitness depended on the success or otherwise of Newcastle, given what lies beneath, which, given Callum Wilson is out for another month, at least there is close to nothing. Yes, there's Willis Sewell or Anthony Gordon can play there, but, that would drop off quite a bit from Isak. Now, I've got a fair handle, I think, on whether he's going to play down at Fulham tomorrow. I'll reveal that after I've spoken about what I'm going to talk about first. And that is the questions that were put to Eddie Howe. And before, there is, I do call it a vocal minority. Some come back and say, why aren't you just asking questions about football? Well, yeah, that was talked about. We did, of course, discuss the fact that Newcastle are, like I say, on the verge of going top now. How they have brought together this team spirit, this collectiveness to get results while they're not playing well. And yeah, let's pick apart the performance down at Wolves last week and see where they can get better. But first of all, Eddie Howe was asked, given that he revealed a week ago he hadn't spoken to Paul Mitchell since Mitchell's controversial interview on September the 4th, have you spoken this week? And he said, I'm not going to go there. Now, that to me, and having a pretty good handle on Eddie, Eddie wouldn't want to lie to us by saying he had, but also in saying no. I think he would know that that perhaps wouldn't be helpful, because it's not helpful to have a manager and a sporting director who aren't in conversation, regular contact, especially given the fallout and everything that was from the interview. Now, if the club, if whatever want this story to go away, have a conversation, talk to each other, just tell us, guys, yeah, it was positive, we've moved on from that. But while we believe that still isn't the case, and Eddie Howe did make the point of saying, now just so you know, I have spoken to a senior board member this week. Now, Darren Eales was spotted at the training ground. We believe that conversation to have been most likely with Eales. Now, until you're not speaking between manager and sporting director, come on. That is an issue for a football club, especially when the sporting director is new and there has been tension that we know about and which has been played out quite publicly between Mitchell and Howe in the press and interviews they've given to us. So don't shoot the messengers. Guys, if you want it sorted, get things sorted in house and let us know. Let us know that the manager and the sporting director are speaking again. So while these questions can't go on forever, I agree, it is getting a little bit tedious, but so is the fact that they're not talking. And, that doesn't, while January is a long way off, it doesn't bode well, because you've got to be ahead of the game now with recruitment. And Eddie Howe keeps on saying that word, collaboration. Collaboration has to be there. And he called for unity today. And he gave a really telling quote down at Wolves last week when he talked about the dressing room supporters and players being unified and being together. He said there again today, he reiterated, that's what he's got to concentrate on. That is what he can impact. He was asked about the unification. He said, yes, the club is unified, but it depends where you are talking about unity. He said the unity between himself, his players, supporters and the board, which you would probably take to mean Darren Eales. He said, yeah, that's good. So yeah, this continues. We cannot not talk about it. It's there. It's over to the club now, really, to sort that out. And if Eales has stepped in this week, like we believe to be the case now, as a little bit of an intermediary, that's on him. That's his job. I said that in the video a week ago. He's got to step up and step in and sort it out. And let's hope he is, because for Eddie, again, there for us this morning to be using phrases like, I hope this journey continues. I'm enjoying the journey that I'm on. That is a little bit of a worry, because Eddie Howe, to go back to the video I've said last week, and nothing has changed in between time. If anything, Newcastle have gone even closer at the top of the table. Eddie Howe is the best thing this football club have got. And whatever issues, concerns there may be behind the scenes, sort it out. They really do need to, because as we've seen, look at the job he's done, not just over 2.5 years. We've spoken about that so much. Look at the job he's done this season with players who, by the manager's own admission to us just there, have come back undercooked. He says the best way to get those players up to speed, and we think he's probably going to mean the likes of Bruno in particular, perhaps Anthony Gordon to a lesser degree, is to put them in the team, is to play them. Now, what we've seen is a slightly sort of disjointed side, and a lot of focus in the press conference there was actually on the midfield. There's options now in midfield, but what do you do? Because you changed 2 of the midfield 3 down at Wolves last weekend, and I thought Sean Longstaff was a little unlucky to come off, and a little unlucky in terms of some of the criticism he got for Wolves' goal. Now, just to revisit that, I think a lot happens after Longstaff loses the ball. I'm not going to criticise Sean Longstaff for playing a progressive pass in the right area. Yes, the execution wasn't there, but I still think an awful lot happens in terms of Dan Burns' contribution, Tino Livramento's contribution, and most importantly, Bruno, you know, the guy who makes the talent dummy runs off Bruno, and that has been a theme of his season so far in terms of not being quite there physically. Bruno hasn't played well. We've got to be honest about that, but the best way to get him up to the levels we know he can be, as Eddie says, is probably to keep him in the team. So what do you do with the midfield? Because Eddie wants to evolve, and this is why Sandro Tonali came in last year. He wants to evolve to a more rotational, fluid, possession-based side who are in control of their own destiny. But don't a lot of the midfielders kind of contradict each other in that terms? If you put Joe Willock in there, I always think the team is better for Joe Willock's presence. Joe Willock isn't a player who controls a game. He doesn't really see loads of the ball and tease passes around. He's an up and a down. He's a transitional player. So I use that word. The team's a little bit of a contradiction at the moment, because you've got forwards, Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak, who probably are better suited to playing on the break, to playing with that transition. Eddie ultimately wants to get to a place whereby Tonali and Bruno and others are keeping the ball, and the possession stats are higher, and Newcastle are a team, like I say, to use that phrase, in control of their own destiny. What we're seeing at the moment is almost a reversion at times to the team who called themselves clear relegation in his first season, and at times even during the second season when they didn't see as much of the ball. They did play on the break and they played to their strengths. Now, what are Newcastle's strengths at the moment? It's certainly not keeping the football and passing it and breaking teams down in that manner. It is. They're relying on togetherness. They've got that in absolute spades. What you see is a dressing room, a team who are 100% and more playing for the manager. They always have done, they always will do as long as he's here. That's why I say they've got to keep him happy and at the club. And they're relying on moments. You know, you saw the moments last week. Newcastle weren't playing well at Wolves, and there's a lot of noise again on social media. It does wind me up, some of it, when after an hour, yes, they weren't playing well, but to turn on the manager, so it's just nonsense, some of it, come on. But anyway, they relied on moments. It's a Fabian Schär goal, albeit a little deflection, then Harvey Barnes, we know he can do that. Now, on last week's selection, I understand why Tonali wasn't in the team after 2 games, and James Bunce has come in and is working well by all accounts, and you know, if they're looking at that thinking, come on, the guy's been out 10 months here, let's not risk losing him for another period of time. I understood Tonali being on the bench, even though I think in terms of what he brings, they've got to find a way to get him in that side. But the other one, Harvey Barnes, yeah, I would have played Barnes. I just think after the way he played against Spurs, he's had a full 2 weeks on the training ground as well. I was really surprised he was left out for Jacob Murphy. And I would hope to see Barnes back in the team down at Fulham. But what do they do with that midfield? I've gone up into the wing areas there. I'd like to see Tonali come in. Such a clever player. And I think he lifts others as well. You know, we've spoken about the absence of signings, not having that impact on players in terms of you know, Kevin Keegan always said they sign a player because it gets 10% more of everybody else. Now, Tonali does have that. It's a cliche, but Tonali does have that new signing feel. And I think just when he's in the team right now, it just brings a little bit more out of others, and it brings a little bit more out of the supporters and that excitement around the team as well. So yeah, Eddie, if you're watching, my take, and I dare say the take of you guys as well, say below the line what team you'll play tomorrow, because it is interesting. Put Tonali in and put Barnes in. Now, those are the decisions he's got where he's got some influence over them. The one way he might not have as much influence is Alexander Isak in attack. Now, we wrote the story, revealed exclusively at Mail Sport yesterday, that he's suffering from a toe injury. Now, this wasn't reported previously. He came off obviously down at Wolves on Saturday, got the ball to the head, a little bit of swelling around his eye. I think his eye got grazed, Eddie said to us there earlier, and because of that, he said he wasn't comfortable, wanted to come off. But yeah, he hasn't trained, to my knowledge, certainly during the early part, the middle part of the week. Isak hadn't been with the group, and that is because of a toe complaint. Now, Eddie confirmed that there this morning, said they'd make a late call. My information is, guys, and I know you'll be watching this as Newcastle supporters and perhaps FPL users. Yeah, I think he will play. I think he will be okay. I think he'll definitely be with the group. And I think he probably will start. Now, we've been here before, of course, with Harvey Barnes and 2 injuries, and we've thought that Barnes was okay to come back, and 3 months later, he still wasn't there. But I do think the information, certainly when I wrote the story yesterday and coming out of today, is that, yeah, I think there's a confidence that Isak will be okay. But of course, it then depends how he actually comes through training. And there will be, certainly given the presence of James Bunce now, there will be that reluctance to unnecessarily risk players. Now, going down to Fulham, again, I think there is a want among the players in the dressing room to absolutely rally around the manager. And as long as Eddie Howe is getting those results on the pitch, and we saw it at Wolves down on Sunday, didn't we? You know, when it looked as if it wasn't going their way and Newcastle weren't clicking, to have that resolve and that fortitude just to come together and extract results from performances that they're not bad, they're just not. Newcastle at the moment, I thought they played well the first 10 minutes and that is spun. The second half when they played well for 10, 15 minutes, but they cannot marry 45 minutes, never mind 90 minutes. And that is the challenge for them now, because they've certainly got the players there to do it. Going to Fulham tomorrow, and I've been quite good in my predictions so far this season. I expect them to win. I do. I'm expecting an away victory, especially if, as we expect, Isak is fit. Now, and that would take Newcastle top, and it might even, on the back of that, Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell might just have a conversation. We'll have to wait and see. So, yeah, guys, I'll be down at Craven Cottage on the train first thing tomorrow morning. Please say hello. But before then, comment below the line, you know, just give us your thoughts on everything around the club at the moment. What would you do selection-wise? If Isak wasn't there, because, well, we think he probably will be, it's a conversation we've got to have, who would come in? Eddie Howe's just said that he's delighted with Will Asula's progress, even though he hasn't used him so far this season. Callum Wilson, by the way, still, you know, back/hamstring problem, still a month away from playing. So who would you play there? Will Asula, Anthony Gordon? What would be the best bet? Personally, I think it's just a fascination side of things. Put Will Asula in. He looked good in that pre-season game. As a reporter, you probably want new things to write about, and I think fans have got that certain degree of fascination as well when it comes to seeing new players in the side. So yeah, if Isak can't make it, Eddie, put Will Asula in. But I think it would be Anthony Gordon who deputises there, because then that would allow Harvey Barnes to come in on the left in his preferred position. So yeah, guys, I'll see you again in just over 24 hours time with my reflections from Craven Cottage, where, yeah, I'm pretty confident I'm going for a Newcastle win, and the title of my video tomorrow night will be Newcastle United are top of the league. Okay, see you then, guys. Bye-bye.